Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. If you are new here, my name is Marissa, and normally I make videos about books and reading and film, but this week we're going to be doing something a little bit different. I have been working as a freelance writer for about 2 years now, and I've really wanted to start talking more about freelancing here on the channel, not only because I find it really interesting and because I love hearing people talk about their freelance experience, but also because I think a lot of people both in my generation and younger, are becoming increasingly interested in kind of non-traditional careers. So I thought I would just put this out there as some tips, tricks, and my experience. Initially, I had planned on doing a series of videos that I would just release every so often, but then I thought it might be interesting to just make this into one big freelance week. And when I asked you guys on Twitter, 80% of you said that you would like to see a week worth of freelance videos, so that is what I'm doing this week. So basically, I have 5 videos coming up for you guys this week that all have to do with working freelance, and hopefully you will find them helpful. And if you were here for book videos, sorry, but I will be getting back to that next week, I promise. Today, I wanted to focus on 5 myths that I hear about freelance working all of the time. But first, I thought maybe I should give you a little bit of background into myself as a freelancer. So I graduated from college with a Bachelor's of Arts in English Literature and initially thought I was going to go to law school and become a lawyer. I actually did go to 1 year of law school and passed my first year and all of that, but I just wasn't happy. It was really interesting, but I wasn't happy. So I decided to quit after 1 year and moved back in with my parents and tried to figure out what the heck I was going to do with my life. It was about a month after deciding not to return to law school that I got my first freelance writing gig, and that was doing website copy, blog posts, ebooks and other downloadables, and helping with social media. I had that gig for about a year, and although it wasn't the greatest paying job ever, I learned a lot in that position. I learned about social media, I learned about SEO, I learned how to write effective copy and kind of what people would respond to, and it was, yeah, I would say it was a really great learning experience. Then last year in summer of 2016, I started working with April Magazine, which I have talked about here on the channel multiple times. April Magazine is a website directed specifically at Asian women, and I help with social media occasionally. I help again with email newsletters, and I write pretty much all of their book related content. That's probably my more traditional freelance experience because it is all done completely remotely. The editor-in-chief is based in South Korea and I am based here in California, so we do lots of Skyping, lots of emailing back and forth. We use Google Docs, and I think that's probably my most traditional freelance experience. Then also in summer of 2016, I started working for an environmental consulting firm that is very small. I work with them as a technical writer, and although it is not the most interesting job in the world, this is probably my most important when it comes to income. This is what helps me pay my bills. This is what helps me, or helped me be able to move out of my parents' house and into my own place. And it gets more and more interesting as time goes on and as learning all of the skills get easier. In this position, I do technical writing. Like I said, I help put together environmental study reports. I also help run modeling systems, and while it's definitely a little bit out of my comfort zone because I don't really have a strong background with math or science, I am learning, and now that I've been there, I guess about 6 months, I find it gets easier and, like I said, more interesting as time goes on. So that's kind of my freelance story in a nutshell, and of course if you guys have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. The last video I will be putting up this week is a Q&A video, so obviously I need your questions for that video to work. So anything you guys can think of, please feel free to let me know down in the comments below or tweet them at me, whatever you prefer. And now let's get into the 5 myths of freelancing, which are basically 5 misconceptions that I think people have about working from home or freelancing or owning your own business. Myth number 1 is that as a freelancer you can work in your pajamas from bed all day if you wanted to, and while yes, I guess technically you can do this if you would like to, I don't personally recommend it. Within the freelance community, one of the most talked about or written about challenges is maintaining a good work-life balance. And let me tell you, working in your pajamas from bed will just totally throw off that balance. Yes, I think all freelancers have probably had at least one day where they've gotten up, tried to answer a few emails, and then before you know it, it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon and you're still in your pajamas. But I personally find that to be really counterproductive to my productivity. Was that redundant? I personally try and avoid that if I can. I like getting up in the morning and at least putting on clean workout clothes, you know, something just to differentiate this is me relaxing in bed to this is me getting ready to work for the day. I also make it a big rule for myself not to do work in bed. I did that even when I was at my parents' house. I would always sit at a table or at least, you know, somewhere not in my room, just so that you kind of can give yourself a little bit of space to have a clear distinction between this is when I'm working and this is when I'm hanging out. And yeah, working in bed in your pajamas just really is not conducive to that. Myth number 2 is that freelancing is way less stressful than having a traditional job. Now, I would say this is a myth because every job has some kind of stress with it. They might just be different kinds of stress. For example, in a traditional office job, I can definitely understand that inter-office politics can be really stressful. I can understand that maybe a specific boss or whoever it is that you report to can increase stress in your life, and I think it can be really stressful knowing that you're not really in control of, you know, what you work on or when your deadlines are. However, as a freelancer, I think one of the big stressors is that you have all of a sudden so much more responsibility. Like I said, in an office job, a lot of the times you're reporting to somebody else. So if something goes wrong with a project or a deadline, they probably are more stressed than you because all of it is gonna fall on the person responsible for all of the other people. However, as a freelance worker, you are your own boss, and if something goes wrong with a deadline or your client's not happy with your work product, that's all on you, and that's a whole other kind of stress. I would also say that as a freelancer, you are, I would say, a little bit more stressed about money, if not a lot more stressed about money, because your income can be more flexible. It can go up and down. You obviously don't have a set monthly salary, and taxes, man. You got to pay a whole lot more taxes when there's not an employer taking out taxes from your monthly paycheck. Myth number 3 is the idea that freelancing gives you all of the freedom in the world. You know, that kind of, hey, if you're a freelancer, you can just take off in the middle of the day to go hang out with your girlfriends and blow off work for the rest of the week. That sort of thing. I personally would say that freelancing doesn't give you more freedom, but it gives you more flexibility. So yes, you can be more flexible with your schedule. If you have to have, say, a doctor's appointment in the middle of the day, it's a lot easier to do that. If you do want to take a couple of hours to go meet up with some friends from out of town or whatever, yes, you do have more flexibility to do that. However, as a freelancer, you still have to get work done. So if you decide to take a day or take an afternoon or whatever, you have to make up that time at some point, and that would be in the form generally of working on the weekends. That's normally what happens to me. Obviously, if you're great at managing your time and you can just get everything done, then sure, you can take more time. But in my personal experience, for every couple of hours I take off during the week, I end up having to make up that time during the weekend. I think this also kind of falls under the freedom myth, but a lot of people seem to think of freelancing as working in coffee shops and on planes and while traveling, and I would say that that really depends on both, you know, the kind of freelance work that you do, but also on your clients. For example, my one client likes me to come into their office 3 days a week, and so while I have a lot of flexibility those other 2 days of the week, and while I don't work a traditional 9-to-5 day when I do go into the office, I know that those are days that I have less flexibility, if that makes sense. Myth number 4 is the idea that freelancers are all doing what they love, and so freelancers never really work a day in their lives. This will probably differ from person to person, but I would say I think most freelancers would tell you that it is a balance between doing what you love and what you find interesting and paying the bills. So for example, you guys know I love books, I love writing, so my kind of fun freelance job is doing the April magazine stuff where I get to read books and write reviews and write book listicles and things like that. For me, that's all fun, and that really doesn't feel like work too much. When it comes to my technical writing job, on the other hand, I definitely don't find that fun. I do find it interesting, and it is challenging sometimes to make things work the way they need to work for a client, but that's definitely a job I do more to pay the bills, if that makes sense. So I think it's really a balance of figuring out how you can spend time doing what you love while still making a living. I would also just like to point out that freelancing is a lot of hard work, especially in the beginning. In an office job, the work comes to you. You know, your company will have clients and then you will work on work product for those specific clients. But when it comes to freelancing, you have to go out and showcase your skills so that people will want to work with you. Now, I am probably one of the very lucky, very rare cases where I have not had to go out and pitch to clients. All of my freelance work has come to me, mainly because my mother's a small business owner, and so I have contacts through her. But generally speaking, when you start out freelancing, there's a lot of hustling, a lot of pitching, a lot of rejection, and yeah, it's just, I mean, none of that really is fun. The fifth and final myth that I wanted to address today is the idea that freelancing is not a real job. Now, for me, when I started freelancing, I really did think of it as less of a career and more of a transitional job for me while I was applying to quote unquote real traditional jobs. However, here I am 2 years out, and now I am very proud and very excited to tell people that I'm a freelance writer, because it's not something I do on the side. It's not something I do because I couldn't have gotten a real job, but it's something that I have chosen to do. I definitely had a few friends in the beginning who were really concerned that I was working freelance, because they're like, oh, I don't know if that's enough stability for you or if you're gonna ever make enough money. But I mean, here I am. I am living off of my freelance work. I have my own apartment, I have my own car. My parents don't pay any of my expenses, contrary to popular belief. And I don't know, I feel like I could just be really happy doing this for the long run. And yes, I will admit that I am turning 26 this year, and I have to figure out what I'm going to do for health insurance, because obviously I don't have insurance through an employer. But aside from that, I don't feel stressed about working freelance at all. I feel like this has actually turned into a really amazing lifestyle and career choice, and yeah, I don't think I would change it for the world. So those are the 5 most common misconceptions I hear about freelance working, and I hope you guys enjoyed my debunking, or at least my opinions on them. If you guys have heard any of these, I would love to hear your responses to them down in the comments below. And again, if you have any questions for the upcoming Q&A, leave them down for me to answer. I really hope you guys enjoyed this first day of freelance week and are looking forward to the videos that are still to come. But otherwise, that is all I have for today. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you're having a fantastic day, and I will see you next time. Bye!